What's up, agents, and welcome back to another Division video. I've just been testing some stuff on the PTS, as you've probably seen, and I still can't quite get over the change to obliterate. Something about it doesn't sit quite right with me, but I actually came across a combination that's actually better now, but it totally depends on the gun that you are running. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe if this video helps you out. I would really appreciate it. And let's get straight into it. Right, so as you can see right now, I am holding the Kingbreaker. The Kingbreaker. Now, it's a TKB, and TKB is getting some changes, but it's still coming out pretty damn good. And obviously, if you're running a Kingbreaker, you also get the awesome talent of Flatline, where it's amp weapon damage by 20% to pulsed enemies. Now this is going to give you a lot of options, right? Because pulsed enemies, you could actually be using Heartbreaker and the changes to that, and it will just work. You don't have to do anything. You can run the technician linked laser pointer, or if you really want to, you can run a skill that pulses the enemies. Now, what I'm going to say is, with the changes that I'm suggesting, if you're running a gun that, obviously, if you're running a high-end gun, you can put the link laser pointer on. It's just easy, right? It's just on all the time, always on damage. It's great. If you want to run an exotic, so perhaps you want to run the Bighorn, perhaps you want to run the Strager or the St. Elmo's Engine or the Eagle Bearer. Any of these guns are going to, are top tier now. If you want to run any of them, obviously you're going to have to pulse the enemies in a different way. So that is a caveat with what I'm about to say. But I think you'll be quite surprised on what comes out on top. Right, so our options are, in this build here, is obliterate, which is now, up to 20%. Or we swap it out for spotter. Now, spotter runs hand in hand with what we've just been talking about. It gives you 15% amp damage to pulsed enemies. And it's just on. No stacking, no having to build up stacks, nothing like that. And it's just on all the time. And I think with obliterate being lowered down, there's something to be said for glass cannon and spotter again, just like there was all them years ago. Now, glass cannon, I've not included that in any of this, because that wins, right? It comes out on top. But obviously, it has a huge side effect that you take extra incoming damage. So if you want to run that, or you want to run focus or perfect focus, they are going to give you much more damage. But they have, the caveats to them. Focus, you've got to be zoomed in all the time. And glass cannon, you take a lot of incoming damage. So this is really the battle of the, chest talents where, there's no real requirements. Now, you could say that's a little bit different with spotter. There is a requirement for it, but spotter gives you 15% amp damage without having to do anything at all, but look at them with your linked laser pointer. Now, there is another caveat to this, is that we have a talent in the game called Perfect Spotter. And Perfect Spotter comes on the closer named chest, and it gives you 20% amp damage. But what you've got to think about with that is you can't just have that on a group war chest. So no 13% critical hit damage bonus as the one piece bonus. You actually get an armor bonus. And if you want to look at a closer, I've got one here. A unicorn of one. It gives 5% total armor for the brand set bonus. So is using Perfect Spotter with 20% amp damage and the loss of the crit damage here, is this going to work out better? Now, this is going to be a fairly hard piece to get, because as you can see, it rolled with crit chance, crit damage. It always comes with Perfect Spotter, but I had to re-roll the core attribute to get this kind of on par with the group war chest, because that's all red. And that's kind of what we're comparing here, right? The group war chest with obliterate or spotter versus the closer chest with Perfect Spotter and the slightly different brand set bonuses. So what do you think is going to win? I wish I could say comment down below and we'll find out in the next video, but that would be rubbish of me, right? So I've done the numbers for this, right? With all of the current changes that are in PTS 2. So that involves the Kingbreaker changes, the Obliterate changes, the Striker changes, right? All of the changes that you're going to see now as the results are currently what are live in PTS 2 of TU22 right now. Now, it's still in the current game. The results aren't far off that either. It's just that it's much easier for us to run Obliterate and get that bursty damage really, really easy with what we have now. So people don't really bother with Spotter or Perfect Spotter anyway. So let me flick to the stats. That's enough talking about it. In paint as usual, here we are. So you can see at the top, I've got Strikers Obliterate, 60% crit chance, 140% critical hit damage with the Kingbreaker. What there is to note here, I'm running the Coyote's Mask and assuming you're at mid-range. So the stat bonuses that I've had added are Coyote's Mask at the 15 to 25 meter range, so 10 and 10. So the build sits at 50% crit chance, but with the added 10 from this and the added 10% critical hit damage from this. Coyote's Mask is what people would use generally for best in slot. So I did add that in, but I didn't want to do 3 sets of numbers, so everything's treated at the 15 to 25 meter mark. So let's flip back to this. So you can see here very, very easily that the Strikers Obliterate, 60% crit chance, 140% critical hit damage, Kingbreaker actually comes out on top. But you have to build to that, right? To get to it. So there is always going to be a point, you know, during it where an always on talent. So let's just put it in very simple numbers. An always on talent, I mean, its first shot does 100% of its damage, whereas the stack up talent doesn't. But then at some point during the stack up, it's going to get to 110 and beat out the 100. You know, hopefully that makes sense. So when we look at static numbers like this, you've got to bear in mind that, the only way we could perhaps do that would be to start including a time to kill stat. I'd have to figure out NPCs' lives and then add a time to kill stat. Maybe I should do that at some point. Just do like a high-end elite or something like that to give you a better idea. But that's for another video. That's not for now. So you can see here the burst DPS, 14, 285, 846, and that's to the head. And that'll be including all the crit chance and, you know, all the rest of it. And then we've got here that if we use Strikers regular Spotter on that group or chess piece, so literally just swapping the talents from Spotter to from Obliterate to Spotter, and you see we drop down, right? But not by much. What is it? 500k? Is that what we're dropping down by? So, you know, what? So one body hit worth of damage, one bullet to the body, non-crit worth of damage. We're talking right here, one bullet, right? So nothing, absolutely nothing at all, right? And then we flip down again to Strikers, perfect Spotter chest this time. So running the closer chest piece, all red, 60% crit chance, and then that lower critical hit damage, the 128 critical hit damage with the Kingbreaker. So we're 12% critical hit damage lower running the chest piece, the closest perfect Spotter chest piece. But that actually beats out regular Spotter now, but doesn't quite beat out Obliterate, being at its 20% value that it can get to. But when I played with this, the perfect Spotter chest felt better. One, because we're getting a 5% armor boost, and two, because the damage is just there. I don't have to worry about stacks. You know, obviously I'm running Strikers still, so there is some stacking mechanisms still in there. But for lower HP enemies, they just died quicker because I had always on damage. So for me, if you're going to stick with Strikers, farming yourself a named closer all red unicorn chest piece, you know, why you've got nothing else to do right now, there's nothing else to do in the season right now, is definitely 100% the way to go. Or maybe just craft it if you've been lucky enough to get the blueprint from Descent. But the numbers don't lie here. They are so close together that the closer chest piece is always going to feel better because of the extra survivability that it's giving you. Although minor, it's always on damage. You know, and I'm not saying you have to run the Kingbreaker here. This is any gun that, you know, that you can run the Link Laser Pointer with. Or if you want to run a pulse skill, this is, you know, again, with your exotic, this is going to work an absolute blinder. Or if you want to run Heartbreaker, where you pulse the enemies by just shooting them in the head anyway, golden. So a closer chest piece is definitely going to be my extreme go-to recommendation for everybody to get. I'm lucky I've already got an all red one. It's you know, it's definitely a unicorn, but yeah, best in slot for Striker's chest piece with no incoming damage or anything like that. Perfect spotter, closer, because the difference is just nothing. The difference is just absolutely nothing, and you get a little bit of survivability boost. We're talking 280. What is that? 286k, the roughly on sustained DPS, right? That's not even a bullet. Not even a bullet, and less than a bullet for the rest of it. They are all so close together. So I mean, you could run spotter, you could run obliterate and not sweat about it. It'll still feel fine, you know. And if you want to max, then you know, obliterate is still the way to go, especially maybe in longer fights, incursions or whatever. Daily, running around heroic. Closer's got a shout, boys. Closer's got a shout. Right, that's going to be it for the video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, agents. Goodbye.